Ugh, anyway. Is it working? It is working. Okay. Hello, Internet. Hello, Facebook. It is I, Katie Z. It is Friday, July 7th. Jennifer Parker's birthday is on the 11th. Remember that. Anyway, this is about autism, neurodivergence, and how clinicians can cause actual harm and then turn around. And this was a funny thing that happened this week. If you don't know much about like the whole experience and phenomena of being assigned female at birth and then coming to the awareness or becoming diagnosed autistic, it is a very exciting, weird, wiggly path, I have to say. And of course, there are absolutely no support services for adults, especially adults with low support needs or whatever, high functioning. I probably actually have somewhat medium support needs, but we're deciding that. That is for a professional, not for me. So earlier this week, this Dr. Colleen Long, I'm on Medium right now, she posted a video on TikTok, which, by the way, is the environment that a lot of this conversation and discourse about late realized, late diagnosed autism, especially in people who were assigned female at birth, we are over there. We're not on Facebook right now. We're over there because we can interact and talk with each other. She pulled off the DSM, not even the most recent DSM, just the DSM-5, and using the DSM criteria, informed strangers on the internet that they're not autistic because she's a doctor and she's the DSM, and that means that she can just say what it is. As you imagine, that was not met with a lot of it was not met. There was quite a bit of pushback. I did not participate in it, but I kind of watched it. She was labeled ableist. She was labeled privileged. She was labeled all kinds of things. And she just got angrier and angrier and angrier. And then in this whole discourse was basically saying, if you're mad at me, you're not autistic. If you're actually autistic, if you're for real, see, because I keep saying you got to be real to feel, right? We got to start here, not with what we want. This is the trauma work, right? Trauma work happens now. So let me just read you. This is so fucking ridiculous. As a society, we have made significant strides in raising awareness and reducing stigma around mental health. I am quoting Dr. Colleen Long, PhD. The reason I didn't see that, I blocked her a long time ago. Okay, now it's all coming together, but let's go. However, a recent incident this doctor encountered highlights a concerning trend of cyberbullying and its detrimental impact on mental health professionals who are coming online and telling strangers on the internet who and what we are and using a book to tell us. But I digress. Let's see what Colleen understands about what she's doing. This is part of why I'm very passionate about changing the conversation about trauma online, especially now that so many of us have been relegated to digital and private space because Biden decided what's actually happening is not. Anyway, she says, it's crucial that we address this issue to foster a safer environment for constructive dialogue. Quoting, I myself, a psychologist who regularly performs testing, dedicated my business social media platforms to educating the young public who are seemingly now more influenced by credential cutie pie, blah, 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 than actual science or research. Dr. Colleen, I would be considered a credentialist cutie pie with my master's degree from Carnegie Mellon, my decades of actual literal research into the brains because I have not understood mine. And also, hey, guess what? I'm a neurodivergent Autistic AFAB, who has resolved complex trauma. Didn't find any of those answers in your DSM, Colleen. I found all of the answers. But she's very, very upset that people without credentials are sharing our own lived experience. And so as I'm in these conversations online, as I'm witnessing them online, what's happening between individuals is, this is my experience, this is what I have learned, this is what I have found. What's happening with yoga people who have decided they're experts is, I am an expert, this is what you are. Bad. And what's happening with medical professionals is they're saying, I am an expert, this is what you are not. Both ways do not benefit. Who gives a flip what the label is? If the experience is sovereignty and agency and orientation and a feeling of actual empowerment, this is power, right? Actual power. No, she really needs to do this. And then she says, within a few hours of posting a video about diagnostic criteria and rules out of autism, she found herself on the wrong end of the debate. Hello, Miss Colleen. Many of you are just waking up to the reality that complex trauma, borderline personality, autism in AFAB individuals shows up very differently than it has been written in the books, because the books were all written by men, white men, looking at little white boys playing with trains. Our whole understanding about neurodivergence is completely 100% rooted in supremacy culture. That's how we define it currently. What's ironic, she says, is that those who claim to be marginalized and silenced are now wielding their own form of cyberbullying, silencing anybody who is, I have no idea what this form of cyberbullying would be, but okay. So she had to deactivate all accounts to wait out the 72-hour news cycle. Who is she for? Who is her education for? If something happens, she has done harm. And her approach, her strategy is to wait out the news cycle. Is she for the autistic? Is she for these children that she says she's educating in her platform? If she doesn't even have the humility to say, oh man, I don't know, man. In one egregious case, a former client of this person, influenced by their self-study on TikTok, filed a complaint with the licensing board about her because she did not agree that she did not meet the full criteria for ASD. Though the complaint was ultimately dismissed, it raises concerns about the potential harm caused by individual with personality disorders now, weaponizing ignorance. Okay, so now autism is a personality disorder, Dr. Colleen. The autistic experience is a personality disorder. To have been born into, raised, and grown up through culture that dismisses children. When I was growing up with my brother, I don't think I was ever assessed as he was. And we're both neurodivergent, but only the boys got the attention. But that's okay. It's a personality disorder. She says, Colleen says, we must reflect on the I'm reading this for the first time, by the way. This is just because I need to switch modes, and this is going to help me get into switch modes. Dr. Colleen says again, we must reflect on the implications of this behavior in other domains. Imagine a heart surgeon explaining to a patient that no surgery is needed based on thorough examination and diagnostic process. Imagine, Colleen, imagine having chronic illness, chronic pain, going to a heart doctor, which is now, this is what happens. I'm in a testing process right now with the Falk Clinic at UPMC for long COVID to determine how much damage my heart and lungs received from my COVID infection. Nobody will talk to me. I'm being passed. Doctor, I'm too medically complex now. This isn't too medically complex. The requirement that patients be educated and intelligent, strategic, and planned in how we are directly interfacing with medicine in this horrible context of how medicine happens in the US disadvantages us directly. Knowing the background, knowing some science about our own conditions gives us strength and power to help be our own advocates. Because look, if we don't match the DSM criteria for autism, it must be a personality disorder. My own therapist is now having to learn about autism because we've gotten to a point where we're getting stuck, where she's experiencing me as being abrasive and rigid. And I'm like, I think that might actually be a trauma. I think that might be innate, that might be autism. So maybe we have to look at that and not whether or not I'm being rigid. Now she's learning about autism. Crappy Childhood Fairy on YouTube. Oh, God, she's lovely, lovely, lovely. She's learning about autism now and seeing that she has been misdiagnosing people with personality disorders her whole career. Oh, because of the whole, again, because we don't have the paper, because we have had to do it all ourselves, all by ourselves, all by ourselves. Let's see what else Dr. Colleen has to say. Dr. Colleen Long. What's ironic is those who claim to be marginalized and silenced are now wielding their own form of cyberbullying. Oh, wait, that's it. She had to wait out. Egregious case. Okay, here we go. There are TikTok videos stating such things as disliking velvet, hating big spoons, or bumping into walls could be signs that you have autism. Yeah, they could be. Could. It's almost like the people who are speaking to our own lived experience understand that it's so personal and dependent on background and certain current situation that we know we can't make a global statement. So it could be. But it's not in her little book. It's not in her DSM-5, not even the revised. It's not in her 5. Does this woman know that all somatoform disorders have been recategorized? Does she know that all somatoform disorders? Does she know that we finally separated paraphilia with the DSM-5? Does she know that we got that out for the kinksters? I don't have a piece of paper. Introduction of terms like masking and spectrum have allowed individuals who do not meet full criteria for autism to claim the diagnosis. Who wants to claim a disability? Who wants to claim a disability that is inherently oppressed within the therapeutic setting? Who wants to do that? I can't imagine anybody says, oh my goodness, this is what's happening. Good. Now I'm going to willfully submit and, subject myself to this. Nobody would do that. These are people coming asking for help, wanting to be better able to operate in the world, wanting to understand our own bodies. Autism and interoception, autism and pain pathways, autism and hypermobility, autism. There's so much that goes comorbid with autism. There's one woman doing research right now who has taken all kinds of different actual research study findings and is looking at things like folate and magnesium as potential pathways to start balancing some of these experiences. Nobody will take her seriously because she's not a PhD. She had a whole conversation with Autism Speaks just a couple weeks ago, and they were like, that's nice. You don't have a PhD. Do you? Anyway, when professionals attempt to set boundary, I'm back on Dr. Colleen Long. Oh, heckin', where is it? When professionals mental health, okay, I'll just go back. Mental health professionals require the autonomy to make informed decision based on their expertise and established diagnostic guidelines. Yeah, And every single human adult who sits in front of you also has expertise, Dr. Colleen Long. Every single human adult who sits in front of you who is seeking a diagnosis so that we can access the support, there's not much out there, but there is some. Every single human adult who sits in front of you seeking this diagnosis so that we can advocate for accommodations in the workplace, so that we can seek occupational therapy to understand our own sensitivities, sensory needs. All of those people are also coming to you informed based on expertise. The idea that the whole autism wasn't even separated from schizophrenia until like 1950 or something. Autism used to be, you couldn't diagnose people. Oh, wait, and autism and ADHD wasn't a separate diagnosis until very recently. So, hello, this is like, it's a language. The diagnostic process is language. Language evolves, language changes. The introduction of terms. Oh, and then she says, when professionals attempt to set boundaries or engage in constructive dialogue, they are labeled as being ableist, racist, neuro-uninfirming. I will tell you, the ableist and racist label does not come from the autism community. It comes from the social justice space, and it comes from Black people saying, hey, man, hello. You guys are not like all with it. Wadley, James Wadley, W-A-D-L-E-Y. Is he at Widener? Is he at Penn? He's somewhere in Pennsylvania. He's Black, and he speaks to and researches how Black identity and Black sexuality is like written in therapeutic space, because it is not written to support or benefit that, is it? And so the person with genuine, this is the doctor talking, the person with genuine autism, oh my God, that's hilarious, shows global and pervasive difficulties in social interacting. The concept of masking is tantamount to saying, I have bipolar disorder, but I only have a manic spell when I'm at home because I mask. Then she does not understand what autistic masking is at all. She doesn't understand what it is. Critics argue that she's gatekeeping. Yeah, she is. She's withholding, she's keeping people away from resources, away from help. She is keeping people away from help because she's a doctor and she has the DSM and she has her little checklist, and you didn't meet all the criteria in the little checklist. People with, oftentimes people self-diagnosing autism, this is her again, will display signs more aligned with various aspects of personality disorders. Tell me how borderline personality disorder cannot ever be subsumed into almost any other thing. Almost any other thing. Let's look at the diagnostic criteria for borderline personality disorder. I think I have a copy of the DSM electronic, because I am not very into holding that shit. Oh, look, DSM-5. I'm a little bit behind it, but let's go. DSM-5. So there is a very common experience that, especially when people who've been assigned female at birth are diagnosed with personality disorders, when what we have is autism. Also, who cares what you label it if you're like working through it? I guess we don't. I guess she does. Colleen really cares how it's labeled. Very much. She's looking for the disorder. She's already called autism a personality disorder once in this article. Where is my DSM? Okay, forget that. Going to DSM criteria borderline. Diagnosing borderline personality. What are the DSM-5? A pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation. So essentially, nervous system dysregulation. This is why we got to get away from these words like regulation and stuff. In therapy, people with BPD, no, people who have been labeled BPD, they don't have it, they have been labeled, must learn how to take ownership as their role in the common denominator of the drama they so often perceive or just following them around. However, being diagnosed, oh my good golly. However, being diagnosed with autism gives one a psychological hall pass to say, well, not my fault. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I remember, I don't know if you witnessed any of me coming back from that dissociation in LA and like having that final synthesis. And there was a lot of passion and also probably some meltdown in there, and all, there will be consequences in my life because of that. I'm already in apology and amend mode with people. Who cares if it's because I'm autistic or whatever? And if people are saying, I have autism, that gives me a hall pass, that's just like saying I'm an extrovert, that gives me a hall pass. I'm a this, that gives me a hall pass. The problem is using the diagnosis or the label as a reason not to be responsible and not to do the work and not to, if one is capable and doesn't need support at that level, to be, yeah, to face the music. Oh, good. Now we're antisocial. A facet of antisocial personality disorder is rationalizing social transgressions as retribution for past perceived injustices, which is often the battle cry among those that fled her comments. It's also a very consistent experience of people, humans who fit the PDA profile of autism. I don't know a ton about it. Pathological demand avoidance is just common. And so I see a lot of parents talking about how to parent children who have the PDA profile of autism, but once you're an adult, mammalian, human, we're having to kind of like figure that out together because we don't have the support of the PhDs with the DSMs. Oh my goodness. How did we get here? Tell me how we got here. The pandemic that shifted, causes seismic shift in ability to inhabit a planet our brains weren't built to live in. That's accurate. She says we experienced a bit of social anxiety, a bit. No wonder no one asks you out. You have no social skills. Then combine this with Zoom school, generation fun employed. In fact, that a large percentage of us figured out how to live in complete isolation, and throw in a few contamination fears, and now everybody has autism. Okay, Dr. Colleen. So what she is saying is that the response that she's getting from people saying, hey man, this is the actual lived experience of an autistic human being. This is what's genuinely happening. This is the impact of not being diagnosed. This is what happens when you're perceived as a woman and looking for resources. She says it's cyberbullying and that we're not embracing compassion and knowledge. And this is why, my friends, this is why people are afraid of you. This is why. This is why people don't want to tell you what's actually happening with us. I clearly don't give a about it because I'm solid here. But a lot of people are not. And what's happening online, what's happening with the discourse online is licensed people are operating like clinicians, like clinical doctors, medical doctors, telling people how to diagnose themselves. This is what this looks like. This is what this means. This is what this is what this. What do you expect people to do with that information? People who are like, wow, a whole bunch of, do you know, like the queer growth that happened during the height of the pandemic has been amazing. People like really getting to sit with, well, what is identity and who am I and how do I understand? We're not in my bedroom, by the way. This is my living bed, just in case you think, you know, This is personal. This is general. It's too bad that the PhD wealthy person who only had to wait 72 hours of news cycle was able to just get all of it. So let's see what Clarity, California has to say. That's where oh, of course, she's in LA. Of course, she's in LA. Our team. Dr. Colleen Long. Oh, she's beautiful. Yeah, I did block her, but here she is. Licensed clinical psychologist in practice since 2002. So she's got 20 years of experience, and all she has after 20 years is, I know everything. There's no way the actual population I serve could speak for itself. She completed her pre-doctoral residency at Alvarado Parkway Hospital in La Mesa, master's degree, Spalding University, and then NYU and Indiana University for her BA in psychology. And she is a media maven. In fact, if you want to talk to her, you can go through an agent. So, Colleen. I see one blackface on this, one melanated person, Jordan Meridino. She's, oh, psychometrician. I don't even know what that is. Psychological assistant, graduated with her doctorate in applied psychology. That's cool. Let's see what they offer at Clarity, California. They certainly don't offer self-reflection for their therapists. Neuropsychological testing for children and adults. We do not provide autism evaluations. Clarity, California, Dr. Colleen Long's own practice says on their website, we do not provide autism evaluations. But Dr. Colleen Long is telling people that she's qualified to determine whether or not a stranger is autistic just because of what they say. I don't know. Somebody get me in a conversation with these people. Needless to say, there's a huge opportunity here if you are in therapeutic space and you're really wanting to engage with and tie into and key into neurodivergence, the neurodivergent experience, and especially everything that happens with people who have been assigned female at birth, who have now been like, oh yeah, actually this is a thing. You could be in a conversation that is helping you become better and more able to understand and discern, or you can decide that all that matters is the DSM. It seems like those are the choices right now. You, sovereign, agent, human, stranger on the internet, can make the choice. But understand, if you sit in that place of, I have the power, I have the book, I know the definitions of the words, you're only going to cause harm. That's all you're going to do. I'll see ya. Bye.